Lean in on your own work, research, and your political career. How big an issue is content going to be in this election cycle 2024?
You know, everybody's saying it is a massive issue, what it is, but there's that flip problem, right, Ed? On the other side, when you're looking at technology, is that people believe it. You know, we look at the point of origin of these videos, which is why I started my company, was to look at where this disinformation line actually comes from, or what the deepfakes actually have as far as radicalizing language, is that people believe it. I mean, a lot of people were actually radicalized with memes and Q drops. So what does that mean with deepfakes and AIs? I just don't know what the enforcement mechanism is going to be on satire. I don't know how the enforcement mechanism is going to work if, you know, people are actually doing it because they think the AI deepfakes are actually effective, you know, and actually making fun of these candidates or asking for violence against candidates or violence in general. So it's just going to be interesting to see how this comes down as far as the legal methodology of this. But as far as AI deepfakes are concerned, you know, I've seen Biden deepfakes with actually him on video. I'm actually working with a company on deepfakes and licensing the AI for each particular individual who wants to use AI for themselves. And I have to tell you, Ed, I'm very worried that it's not just the fact that the deepfakes are being generated, it's that the populace, there's a credulous populace, tens of millions that are going to believe this because they don't understand the technology and they're ignorant about actually what's happening on social media and ignorant about what's happening with AI.
Denver, in the body of work that your current firm is doing, do you see any specific focus or center of activity, either across the two political parties or focused on any specific candidates?
Yeah, I think what you're going to see with AI, what you see in the generating AI already from the far right, I think right now, I don't think independent center-right Republicans or Democrats really have any idea about how effective AI can be if it's in the hands of specific individuals that have no moral boundaries. And that's the thing that really does worry me, Ed, is the lack of moral boundaries and the fact that technology is widely available. This is not, it's not something hard to do. I mean, you can hire firms to do AI. You can do some of it yourself. It's just not that difficult. So what we're seeing also is that the foreign disinformation campaigns could be very effective with AI, with deepfakes specifically, but with other type of things, just like audio. I mean, AI audio is so easy. So now you have this ability to do disinformation on a massive scale that'll make memes and drops and, you know, videos just sort of, I would say, passe. AI and deepfakes specifically coming from foreign enemies or threats, but from people who have no moral boundaries, I think is going to be something that could cause a lot of violence starting in the spring and summer, late spring, early summer of 2024, which is my biggest worry.
Denver, you say it's not difficult to do. I think what you're saying is in the context of content moderation, right? The actions
Correct.
of the platforms themselves. We talked about this earlier in the program, that what came out of the 2020 presidential election cycle was content moderation policies. And now the political argument is that those resulted in the over-censorship, particularly of conservative views. Tie that then to the deepfakes issue. You know, either the tech companies take action or they don't. Should it solely rest with them to be responsible?
You know, we're to a point where it might solely rest with them based on the enforcement mechanisms. If you know, I've done enough investigations now that government has a very tough time moving at speed against new technologies. So when you're talking about these large companies, there's going to have to be some kind of ability to self-moderate, you know, when you're looking at actually these AI deepfakes. You know, my biggest fear, Ed, you know, is that AI, as far as being able to radicalize people in a way we can't even imagine at this point, is something that we're going to have to fight with forever. I mean, really, the information war is the forever war. So I think that's the issue that we have. And these large tech companies, there's going to have to be some responsibility on how these AI deepfakes are actually promulgated. And I don't see, with the massive amount of AI platforms, you know, what do you have? 40 major, maybe social media platforms, hundreds of minor platforms. You have emails. You still have Facebook. You have private groups. You have so much stuff out there. I don't know how you actually do it unless the tech companies actually take some responsibility for deepfakes or for AI-generated content.